Hey guys, we're back here with Project 100. This is the first official week. Last week was kind of an introduction of what it is that we're going to be doing. I want to highlight a little bit on what Project 100 is for those that are just joining us. Project 100 can be a little bit of a misleading project because a lot of people believe that it's just all about velocity, right? And over the course of the last few years, we've been able to kind of accomplish that feature of touching 100 miles an hour. But this project is more or less about being 100% ready for your next opportunity. So we're talking about becoming a holistic pitcher. We're talking about everything that it takes in order to become a great pitcher. It's not just about how many times a week can we throw as hard as we can at a brick wall or throw high effort bullpens, but rather we're gonna have high focus and high execution bullpens that are also intermittently mixed throughout the way to make sure that we're focusing on the right thing so that the next time we face hitters, we're ready to go. So John, we're going into this week right now. We stopped throwing October 1st. We're gonna pick up a ball again October 30th, so that's about 4 weeks off. What are we focusing on during this time while we're kind of getting after it in the weight room a little bit? We have this kind of unique window of opportunity where we don't have to worry about the stresses of throwing a baseball, but rather we get to prep ourselves for the stresses of throwing a baseball. How are we going about that?
When you first come in, obviously we're doing a mobility screen. We're looking for trigger areas, things that just aren't moving the way they should, what we need to fix. Are they something that need to be addressed before we start throwing? And then we're looking at, what's our rotator cuff strength like? What's the mobility like? And we need to do other things. Every athlete's different. You need to also kind of get a feel for what was the workload like this past year? How many innings did you accrue? How many pitches did you throw? How many times did you get hot? How many bullpens did you throw? When was the last time you gave your arm a little bit of a shutdown? All these things factor into what this first initial phase needs to kind of look like. Also things like, what was your training like in season? Professional level, it needs to be something. And so this season we opted to go with a lower volume, more twitchy type lift for the vast majority of your time. It worked out really well for maintaining the metrics, the performance numbers. But what that doesn't leave us with is any ability to do volume work. So when we come back from the season, while our strength and power numbers are probably still good, there's no workload capacity. So we have to build that up pretty quickly. That's what we've been focusing on the last couple of weeks. That's what we're gonna focus on the next few weeks leading into throwing. Looking at the macro of the year, you kind of need to break down how much time do you have to get ready for what you need to get ready for? How much time do you allot for each phase? How important is it to that athlete? Some athletes are really big and strong and they need to spend a significant portion of their offseason in speed. Some are not, and they need to spend most of it in strength and size. So with you, obviously workload is our main thing. Well, you build a pretty high work base. It's going to help you with your cardiovascular capabilities, which has recovery ramifications as we increase our workload or our throwing load. And it also kind of provides us with a little bit of body armor. Having bigger cross-sectional muscle tissue is going to do a better job preserving tendons and ligaments through it's a super rigorous season at the professional level. So that's been our main focus here.
One of the things that we've kind of started doing going into this month, and this is something that we'll touch on more as we get further and deeper into Project 100, but we've been introducing something called myohypertrophy. And I would love for you to kind of explain what the general concept of that is and how we're kind of utilizing that right now to one, kind of increase volume a little bit, but two, just kind of get after it with, traditional hypertrophic gains.
So I guess we should go back first if we're talking about the why. If you've ever spent any time training with myself or DJ, one of the prevailing themes that we talk about with a lot of our athletes is that frequency always trumps duration, whether that's tissue work, throwing frequency, it's lifting stimulus. Doing it more often is going to yield significantly better benefit, quicker benefit, and more lasting benefit. So you'll see guys walk in, they'll hit a 30-minute foam rolling session, get their body absolutely just destroyed and loose, and then 60 minutes later, it's back to tight and stiff again. The way the human body works is when you ask it for something, it's going to tell you no over and over and over again. So the amount of times we can ask it is going to shorten that time before it gives us what we want. Kind of like with throwing velocity. When we're trying to increase throwing velocity, finding ways to be violent without increasing stress is a much quicker path to higher end velocity. We'll get way more in depth in that when we start throwing again. But myohypertrophy, without giving away the farm here, is a shorter style workout. You can Google the basics of it. We've adapted it many, many times now to kind of fit our needs and what we're trying to do. Basically, they're shorter workouts. They're brutal for the duration, but they achieve a massive stimulus. Basically, that's what we're hunting here. We're hunting the stimulus of us telling our body that it's super weak. That's what you're doing when you're lifting. You're telling it something. Okay, so you're either telling it that it's too small, you're telling it that it's too weak, you're telling it that it's too slow. At night, if you got the required nutrients, are sleeping well, and did a good job with your recovery modalities, when you sleep, it's going to address those issues, you know, the strength or speed or whatever you told it was, or it wasn't good enough at, it will slightly adapt to get better at that. So we're lifting 5 days a week brutally right now, but it's not for that long. So that's how we're able to go day after day after day after day. And at night, he's able to, you know, pound the protein, pound the calories, you know, and get his 9 hours of sleep and recover enough to where we can do it again, allowing us to make, you know, progress in what we're trying to progress, right? Which is workload and larger tissue capacity, much quicker. So even though we have a short window with a professional off season, finding these little tricks can really make a huge difference.
Another thing that I obviously want to talk about as well is, you know, we have this window to start preparing ourselves for the on-ramp of throwing. How are we going about in terms of arm care? How are we attacking some of these needs that we might not be able to do while we're throwing? Like, I know that some people would really like to incorporate in their arm care more eccentric value type work, things that would be a lot more taxing than traditional arm care protocols during this window of time because we're not throwing. What kind of modalities are you looking to use as we kind of get ourselves ready to throw?
This is another one of those situations to where every single thrower you work with is slightly different. So if you're watching this and you know someone locally 20, 30 miles that is really good with this stuff, I suggest that you see them at the beginning of your off season for sure. We go through an entire 8 months of throwing in a row, and any serious pitcher or any serious thrower is going to be doing what, 2, 3, 4, 5 days of arm care?
Yeah, most likely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you came home, we actually shut it down.
Yeah, we stopped.
We walked away. And arm care has a whole slew of different modalities to it too. You know, arm care isn't just, you know, doing your bands. Arm care is about addressing the joint as a whole, keeping a congruent shoulder socket to make sure that, you know, our scapula is moving the right way and it's keeping everything in place. When we look in your specific case, you've been doing arm care religiously for 8, 9 months here. So we shut that down, and the actual arm care that we are addressing more during this time period is getting that shoulder moving again. You know, over that many days throwing in a row, that many innings, things start to clamp down. It happens for every thrower who plays 150 games. There's almost no way to negate this. You know, we survive to the end of the season, and then we get that thing freed up and ungunked, I guess. Super technical term there. But, so that's why it's important you find yourself someone that really understands the shoulder socket. When we talk elbow health, elbow's a simple hinge here. It's flexion, extension. So you want to find someone that knows what they're doing up here. You know, it can also be wrist problems. That's a serious thing. Find yourself someone that knows what they're talking about. If you think you're having any type of arm problem, or you want to push the envelope velocity-wise this year, you can't do it without an arm that's functioning really well. You can maybe do it for a little while, but then it starts to fall apart as these systems break down. As you ask it for more, you know, that's when you start seeing problems arise, and then it's too late. You know, prehab is, they say an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, right? So get your prevention in at the beginning of the season, get on the plan that makes sense for you in the first 4 to 6 weeks, so when you do start really ramping up your throwing, you're actually ready, and you're not trying to put a Band-Aid on it in January and February right before your season starts.
I kind of want to build off that a little bit, because some of you that are tuning into Project 100, you're probably looking at this towards the velocity development side of things. One of my favorite metaphors that I like to use when we talk about readdressing what it takes to get where we want to be. Let's say that you're an 85 mile an hour guy and you're looking to get up into that 90, 92 range. I want you to imagine your career as if you're an 85-story skyscraper. And if you wanted to build 7 floors onto that, would you just simply add 7 floors on top of it, or would you reassess the foundation of the structure and make sure that it's able to handle 7 more stories? Because the last thing we want is for those 85 stories to collapse and kind of crumble to the ground because we didn't do the necessary work or due diligence in order to make sure that we can handle adding another 7 to our body. I want to wrap this up a little bit. Make sure that you tune in, make sure that you're following us. I Am Good Baseball at Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, you name it, our YouTube channel. Please make sure to like us and subscribe us. Make sure that you guys are able to tune in with us and that we are able to kind of give you guys a good in-depth look of what it looks like to have a traditional off-season, to get after it and make sure that we do absolutely everything. Thank you for tuning in. This is Project 100. We'll see you next week.